You actually think inheriting this pile of dirt gives you a seat at our table? Move this junk, or I'll have it compacted into a cube with you still inside. That's what she said to me. Right there, first thing in the morning, her voice cut through that mountain air sharper than a winter wind off the Tetons. But I didn't look up right away. I just kept watching her golf club tap out this little rhythm on the hood of my muddy Ford, like she was marking time until I begged for mercy. Tap, tap, tap. Every tap was a little slap to the face, if I'm being honest. Eventually, I let my eyes crawl up the graphite shaft of that club past her hands. Every nail perfectly manicured, white-knuckled grip that said, "I own everything I touch," and up to her face. Meredith Thornfield. I swear, this woman didn't look real. More like the mascot for some high-end realty firm light blue suit. Helmet hair that didn't move even in a breeze. Not a wrinkle or a hair out of place. And all of it standing in front of the rusted iron gate that's marked the edge of my family's land since Grover Cleveland was president. Behind her, her wagon shimmered in the sun like some kind of chrome spaceship probably worth more than every truck I've owned put together. She sized me up and saw one thing: trouble. Mud on my boots, frayed jacket. 3 days stubble. She figured I was the loser cousin who showed up, hit the jackpot, and was about to blow it all. Debris, basically. She didn't see what was inside the jacket. She couldn't imagine it. What she definitely didn't seek out and see was that this land had my last name written into the dirt, and had since 1887. And that piece of paper she'd balled up and chucked through my window. $50,000 citation. That wasn't the bullet she thought it was. That was the first shovel full of dirt on her own grave. I let the silence stretch, heavy and awkward, until she huffed and spun on her heels, stomping back to her car. She left me there with the dust, the quiet, and a war I hadn't started, but sure as hell was going to finish. Folks see 3,200 acres of Wyoming pines and deep water and think, beautiful, nature, freedom. Not me. Not anymore. 15 years as a federal surveyor will cure you of poetry. I see elevation lines, watershed vectors, boundaries so sharp you could cut yourself on them. My uncle left me this place not to retire on, but because he knew sooner or later the sharks would show up, and I was the only one who'd ever learned how to hunt sharks. So I went inside. Cabin smells like cedar, dust, and memory. Piled my old Pelican cases on the table, dusted off the satellite maps I'd pulled before I lost cell signal, and started piecing together the truth. That's when I saw its eastern boundary, where the HOA's emerald green lawns started pushing in like a tumor. Roads, houses, a big, ugly clubhouse right on the lake. Beverly Hills in the middle of Wyoming. According to county records, that HOA butted right up against my line. But the satellite image told a different story, one that didn't fit. Curves were wrong. Something about that shoreline just plain crawled under my skin. I grabbed my keys and drove out, bouncing over fire roads nobody but me bothers to maintain. Pines gave way to perfect vinyl fence CISO, white it glowed. And there, right on the lake stood that monstrosity of a clubhouse. White columns, wraparound deck, docks stretching out like a middle finger. Boats everywhere. Jet skis whining. Not just a neighbor building too close, this was an invasion. They hadn't just built next to the water, they'd claimed it, sold it, tamed it. I started snapping photos. The dock, the foundation, even the HOA sign, private trail, residents only. That's when I heard the golf cart. 2 rent-a-cops in tactical vests rolled up, puffed out their chests, acting like the world's least intimidating SWAT team. Meredith herself glided out, waving them off. She wanted this confrontation, wanted to put me in my place. I thought I made myself clear at the gate, she said, glaring at me from her side of the fence. You're trespassing. That eyesore of a truck class, a violation. You're lowering our property values just by existing. If you so much as drop a fishing line in that lake, I'll have your truck impounded. I finally spoke. I'm on the Cross Ranch, not your HOA. Unless you've got a warrant or a survey crew, you might want to keep your threats down. She laughed, a dry, scratchy sound. Honey, we've maintained this land for 15 years. We mow it, patrol it, own it by adverse possession, if not by deed. And that lake? It's a community amenity. Private. You're done here. I just pulled out my phone and hit record. Just for the record, you're saying Emerald Waters claims the lake, the shoreline, everything to this fence? We don't claim it. We own it. Now, get out of my sight. I didn't argue. Didn't tell her adverse possession needs 20 years, not 15, or that federal land patents trump all of it. I just nodded, took her envelope, and left. She dusted off her hands like I'd soiled her. She had no clue she'd just confessed to federal land fraud and tape. That night, with the mountains swallowing the last light, I dug up an old lockbox in the cabin floor. The whiskey was long gone, but the papers inside were better. Deeds, map sand at the bottom, wrapped in oilcloth, a land patent signed 1887 by Grover Cleveland. The nuclear bomb of property law. Everything mineral, timber, water rights all to my family. Absolute title. I laid that map out next to the satellite printout, and there it was. The HOA's clubhouse wasn't just closey, it was 40 feet over the line. Septic system, too. And the nature trail ran straight through protected wetland. But the math still didn't add up. That big of a development should have needed a massive sewage system. The county plant was too small. So where was the rest going? I pulled out the thermal camera and hiked out at 2 a.m., nerves humming, breath smoking in the cold. Up on the ridge, I scanned the marsh, saw a burning streak of orange, piping hot. They buried a bypass pipe, dumping raw sewage straight into the wetlands on my land. You want to talk about rage? That wasn't trespass, that was a felony, a Clean Water Act violation. This wasn't just HOA games anymore. This was a criminal enterprise. Morning came, and with it, the attack. Heavy machinery rumbling, dropping giant boulders across my only access road. Meredith, triumphant, flanked by some slick lawyer. Landscaping improvements, she purred, but as of today, your easement is expired. You're landlocked. Here's a $50,000 lien. 48 hours to vacate, or we cut your power. They weren't just trying to scare Methy, wanted to bankrupt me, force a sheriff's sale, pick up the ranch for pennies. I just told her, you're making a mistake. She laughed in my face. You're finished. Most folks might have panicked, but I picked up my sat phone and called an old Army buddy, Colonel Vance. We'd mapped some nasty territory together, the kind that makes a golf course look like a sandbox. I told him about the evidence, about the Section 404 violation. He didn't hesitate. My team's in state already. We'll be there at 0900. Bring the hammer. That night, I snuck out with the LiDAR, marked every inch of the true boundary. Drove iron stakes straight through their putting green, their pool, Meredith's precious rose garden. But I needed more. Needed to prove Meredith's fingerprints were all over the fraud. That's when I heard a branch snap and found myself staring at the HOA's own treasurer, Era Vance. She was shaking, bathrobe, slippers, tears in her eyes. She's going to destroy you, she whispered, just like she did the family up on the ridge. Then she handed me a folder of bank statements, emails, everything. Bribes, money laundering, threats. If the lien doesn't work, she's going to burn your cabin down. I can't be part of it anymore. I told her to stay home, lock her doors, and not come to the clubhouse in the morning. Because by then, it wouldn't be a board me tinge, it would be an execution. Sun detonated over the ridge. I was standing on the porch, mug of cold coffee, when a convoy rolled up black SUVs, Army Corps truck, EPA, the works. The real cavalry. Colonel Vance, U.S. Marshals, EPA agents. We hiked through the woods, straight into the HOA's emergency town hall. Meredith was on stage, microphone in hand, riling up the residents demanding another $5,000 to fight the squatter. I just walked down the aisle, boots crunching. She screamed for security deputy Marshal Higgins, flashed his badge. Federal agents. Sit down or be seated. Everyone froze. I plugged my drive. Up came the 3D map. Red lines slicing through the clubhouse. through luxury homes. I told the crowd, "You've been told I'm the squatter. Truth is, you're sitting on my land." More gas when I showed the thermal images raw, sewage pouring into protected wetlands. The EPA agent stepped up, held up the evidence. $50,000 per day for 15 years. $270 million in liability. Meredith's husband tried to attack me. Higgins had him face down and cuffed before he could blink. Meredith? She melted down, screaming, "I'm the president. I am a community." As they read her rights and let her off in cuffs, the only thing left in her eyes was pure, blind panic. She was just a person again, small, broken, unmasked. One of the homeowners, terrified, came up to me. "Are you going to evict us?" I looked at the families, the clubhouse, and I made a call. The clubhouse comes down. The dock, too. But the houses? You get to stay 99-year lease, $1 a year, under a new conservation trust. The HOA is dissolved today, but you stop building fences. I hate fences. That relief, I'll never forget it. No cheers, just a collective breath like a storm passing. The next 6 months demolishing the clubhouse, restoring wetlands, court battles. EPA found so much chemical runoff. The bill nearly bankrupted the Thornfields. Meredith and her husband went to prison, lost everything. Their treasurer testified, exposing the whole rotten machine, bribes, threats, all of it. The judge called it hubris bordering on pathology. But the real victory was on the ground, land healing, wildlife coming back, fences gone, elk on the fairway, silence returning. One night, Colonel Vance came by with a couple of beers. We watched the sun set over the lake. "You did good work," he said. "You proved you can't beat geometry and you can't beat history." I said, "Land just wants to breathe." He grinned. "They're calling it the cross protocol, you know? 6 hours, 1 scanner in the dead of night." I told him it was closer to 7. Batteries were low. He asked if I'd stick around or chase the next fight. I said, "I think I'm done fighting. I'm just going to be a neighbor. Maybe a grumpy one, but a neighbor." He nodded, finished his beer, and left me with the quiet. I skipped a stone across the lake, watched it hop and sink, and I thought Meredith tried to rule this place, pave it by it. But nobody owns the land. We just take care of it for a while. The land remembers. And for the first time in years, it was remembering how to be wild again. A week later, I signed the papers to name the new wildlife corridor after Uncle Calloway. Justice isn't just about seeing the bad guys foul, it's about restoring the natural order. Making sure that, when you walk your fence line at dusk, the only thing you answer to is the horizon. That's what home feels like. Not a line on a map, but a promise kept. Sometimes, to protect what you love, you just have to draw a line in the dirt and stand by it. So what about you? If you'd been in my boots, would you have let those neighbors stay or kicked them all out? Where do you draw the line between justice and revenge? Drop your answer in the comments. And hey, if this story hit home, like and subscribe. Let's keep telling stories that draw real lines in the sand.